There are places on this earth so haunted, so cursed, that even in daylight, their shadows seem alive. From abandoned hospitals where the dead still scream, to luxury hotels with ghostly brides, and entire islands where no one dares step foot. These are not just ghost stories. They are real places you can find on a map. Tonight, we open the doors to the world's most terrifying haunted places. Enter if you dare.
On a hilltop in Louisville, Kentucky, stands the infamous Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Built in the early 1900s, it housed thousands of tuberculosis patients when the disease had no cure. More than 60,000 people died within its walls, and many claim their spirits never left. Visitors describe the air as heavy, like breathing through damp cloth. The long, dark corridors stretch endlessly, and shadows seem to move when no one is there. But the most chilling part is the death tunnel, a sloping underground passage where bodies of the dead were wheeled out secretly, so living patients wouldn't lose hope. In 2012, a group of urban explorers entered Waverly with cameras, determined to capture proof of the supernatural. They laughed at first, joking about ghost shows. But once inside, the laughter died. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. Their breath fogged, even though it was a warm summer night. One explorer, Nate, wandered ahead into a patient ward. He swore he saw a man standing at the far end of the hallway, tall, gaunt, dressed in a patient's gown. But when he called out, the figure disappeared. Seconds later, a metal gurney rolled across the hall on its own, the wheels screeching loud enough to echo down every corridor. They decided to leave, shaken. But when they entered the death tunnel, they heard whispers, hundreds of voices murmuring in unison. One of them screamed as icy fingers brushed across her arm. The group bolted for the exit, but Nate tripped and fell. When the others turned back to help, they froze. Nate was on the ground, clawing at his throat, as if invisible hands were choking him. His face turned blue before he gasped, and suddenly, the grip released. They dragged him outside, and he survived, but to this day Nate bears deep red marks around his neck like the outline of skeletal fingers. Waverly Hills remains a hotbed of paranormal activity. Locals say if you dare to stand in the death tunnel at midnight, you'll hear the wheeled gurneys moving in the dark, carrying the forgotten dead who never left. Just off the coast of Venice lies an island few dare to speak of, Poveglia. It is small, hidden among the Venetian lagoon, but carries one of the darkest reputations in history. To this day, the Italian government has forbidden entry, and with good reason. During the plague, Poveglia was used as a quarantine zone. Entire ships of infected men, women, and children were sent there to die. Their bodies were burned in giant pits. Some historians estimate that more than 100,000 people perished on that patch of land. The soil itself is said to be half human ash. By the 1920s, authorities built a mental asylum on the island. What happened there only deepened the curse. Patients claimed they saw shadows crawling across the walls, heard screams in the night, and felt cold hands pulling at their sheets. But their doctors ignored the claims, insisting it was madness. The asylum's head physician became infamous. He performed horrific experiments, lobotomies with crude drills, brain surgeries without anesthesia. Eventually, even he was haunted. Staff claimed they heard him muttering about voices in the bell tower calling his name. One night, he leapt from the tower. Some say he was pushed. Others swear the ghosts dragged him down. His broken body was found at the base, but witnesses said he was still breathing until a thick black mist rose from the ground and suffocated him. After the asylum closed, Poveglia was abandoned. But its silence is deceptive. In 2014, a small film crew illegally rode to the island to shoot a documentary. At first, they found only ruins, collapsed ceilings, rusted hospital beds, restraints still bolted to the walls. But as they reached the bell tower, one of them swore they heard it ring, 3 deep chimes echoing across the island. The problem? The bell had been removed decades earlier. Panicked, they tried to leave, but one crew member, Marco, disappeared. His friends searched frantically, but found only his camera. On the final seconds of his footage, Marco had been climbing the staircase of the tower. A pale figure appeared behind him, moving unnaturally fast. The screen shook, and then nothing. Marco was never seen again. The survivors rowed back to Venice. When they pulled their boat ashore, they saw long claw-like scratches carved into the wood, as if something had tried to hold them back. Locals refused to believe their story, until the camera footage surfaced online, and was mysteriously removed days later. Today, fishermen avoid the waters around Poveglia. Some swear they hear screams drifting across the lagoon at night. Others hear the phantom toll of a bell that hasn't existed for nearly a century. And on rare foggy nights, Venetians claim they see a faint glow from the tower window, a figure standing there, watching, waiting for the next soul foolish enough to step foot on cursed ground. In the Canadian Rockies stands the Grand Banff Springs Hotel, a castle-like resort known for its luxury, breathtaking mountain views, and its ghosts. Of all the spirits said to wander the halls, none is more infamous than the Ghost Bride, a tragic figure tied forever to a staircase where her life ended too soon. The story begins in the 1920s. A young woman was preparing for her wedding in one of the hotel's lavish rooms. Guests recalled hearing laughter, music, and the shuffle of feet in the grand ballroom as the celebration began. But the bride herself never made it to the altar. As legend goes, she descended the grand spiral staircase in her gown and veil when disaster struck. Some say her gown brushed against a candle's flame and caught fire. Others believe she tripped, panicked, and fell. Whatever the cause, she tumbled down the staircase in front of horrified guests. She died instantly, her wedding day turning into a day of mourning. Her presence never left. Guests have claimed for decades to see a pale figure, in white drifting silently across the ballroom floor, her veil trailing like smoke. Some hear faint organ music and hushed wedding vows in the empty ballroom long after midnight. One chilling account comes from a couple who stayed at the hotel in 2001. Returning late one night, they saw a woman in a wedding gown standing perfectly still at the top of the staircase. They thought it was a photo shoot and called out to her. Slowly, she turned her head, and the guests froze. Beneath the delicate veil was a face burned black, her eyes wide and hollow. Before they could react, the figure vanished. Even hotel staff whisper of her. One cleaner admitted he refused to clean the ballroom after dark. He once heard faint sobbing and followed the sound to the staircase. At the top, he saw wet footprints, as though someone had been walking in the rain, but there had been no rain that night. The prince stopped halfway up, disappearing into nothing. Renovations have tried to erase her presence, but she remains. Visitors have snapped photos with strange white mist in the background. Some claim their cameras freeze entirely when aimed at the staircase. And couples who marry at the Banff Springs Hotel often report hearing faint footsteps behind them during their first dance, though no one is there. The ghost bride's story has become part of the hotel's legacy. Tourists are warned, don't stare at the staircase too long. Because if you do, you may see her waiting, veil smoldering, eyes empty, forever.